Okay, so we've given you the statistics. We told you what can happen when you graduate. Now you get to hear from an alum who is currently working. She's not a starving artist, I promise. So you get to hear her experience and how CIA prepared her for what she's doing now.
Things are so awesome here, I kind of want to come back, but my job would not allow that. So, how are you guys doing today? Good. Okay, I know it's Saturday morning, but you guys are in art school, and that's really awesome. So can we get a little woot woot or something? Thank you. All right. Well, I remember being in your spot. Let me put my name up there. I remember being in your spot. I was extremely excited to go to college. I was ready to be done with high school, ready to move on to the next chapter of my life, but underneath all of that, I was nervous and intimidated. There were so many options open to me, and I felt like I had to make the right decision. I mean, what if I picked the wrong path, the wrong major? My life would, of course, be ruined. It would all be over. I'd be a failure. I constantly asked myself if I had what it took to get to any school, let alone art school. I debated in my head if I was talented enough, would I have the backbone to last tough critiques. I worried if I got accepted, would my art be so bad, they would just tell me to leave one day. I was worried I'd never be able to make it into a major, that they'd never accept me. I was worried if I would even be able to graduate. How would I make it through? I was terrified of failing, of disappointing my parents, my family, my friends, and myself. I was scared of all the new people I was going to meet, fellow peers, professors, staff, visiting artists, and mentally comparing myself and my skills to them, and I hadn't even met them yet. And here I am today to tell you it all works out. All of those worries are natural and just a part of the experience. It's nerve-wracking to start a new journey, especially one that's going to test your skills, ideas, and who you stand for as a person. But it is also really awesome. You're going to experience things you never thought you would. You're going to create some really amazing artwork, some really awful artwork, and then some more really amazing artwork. You're going to make lifelong friends and also find yourself as an artist and a designer. My father is a graduate of the CIA as well, so growing up, art was a huge part of my life. I looked up to my dad and still do today. He's here today, which is very nice. And I wanted to be just like him. Thus, when it came to the idea of going to art schools, I never thought I could equal his greatness. Once I decided to go to art school, I started looking at colleges all over the country. I specifically wanted to be an automotive designer, so industrial design was at the top of my list when looking at any school. I remember visiting CIA and it just feeling right. I felt like this was going to be my home and I was meant to be here. With so many majors, I would have the chance to learn anything and everything I wanted. It would all be at my fingertips. When I received my acceptance letter to CIA, I was mystified, for sure, and also overjoyed. I remember my parents trying to talk me out of going to art school. Not because they didn't think I was talented enough, but because they knew exactly how difficult it would be on me. They warned me that I was going to have extremely tough skin because critiques could be grueling sometimes. Parents always have a hard time, which many of you will attest to this, thinking about your little baby going to a critique and having their art being ripped apart when you know it's perfect and beautiful and they could never do wrong. I said I could handle it and that this was what I wanted to do and somehow I'd succeed. And that's what I set out to do. I came to CIA and despite all the worries, crazy and justified, I succeeded. When I came here, my heart and brain were dead set on automotive design. I mean, I was going to be the next awesome, super great female powerhouse automotive designer. However, after being here some time, I was opened up to a whole new world of mediums and possibilities, which you guys have seen and you'll see today. At major selection, I applied to 3 majors, industrial design, sculpture, and glass. I was accepted to all 3. I was very surprised. Despite wanting to explore more with sculpture and glass, I decided to enter industrial design. I had clearly told everyone I was going to be an automotive designer, so how could I go back on my word? I would clearly be a quitter and a failure if I did not follow through on my work. I would be disappointing everyone. And obviously, that was going to be the way. It made no sense, but at that time, and I'm sure a lot of you can, as students, incoming freshmen, to college can think right now, oh my gosh, I have to do this one thing because I told everyone that's what I was going to do. My parents are telling me I have to do this one thing. Oh my God. So I completed 1 semester of car design and decided I just couldn't do anymore. It wasn't what I wanted to do after all, and that was okay. Let me repeat that, that was okay. My life is not ruined, I'm alive, no one killed me. At the end of the year, right before spring show, I made the best decision of my CIA career. The internal conflict of where I was supposed to be was tearing me apart. It was time to start doing what I wanted to do. At the end of my first year in industrial design, I officially switched to sculpture. I remember standing on the back dock of this building, on the ramp, leaning on the rail, thinking, oh my God, I have to call my parents and tell them. And I remember my mom saying that they didn't agree with my decision. My father actually would not speak to me at the time. My mother said verbatim, we don't agree with this, but you're an adult, so we can't stop you. And she had that sass, too. As hard as that was to hear, I knew that one day they would understand, even though at the time I had no idea what this plan was going to entail. I had no idea what I would do in sculpture, how I would make it work, but I just knew that I had it in me. I knew that I could do it. And now, today, not only do I feel that I've found my calling, but my parents are literally my two biggest supporters. They are always there for me when I'm having a tough day. They tell me, Jess, you got this. You can do it. And that means the world to me. While I was in sculpture, I found my passion for ocean conservation, and wait for it, sewing. Sounds crazy, I know, but this is art school and crazy things happen here all the time and it's really awesome. So long story short, one day out of frustration of making really crappy art, because oh God, did I make bad art, I decided that I just wanted to make something that had no concept, no assignment, no deadline, just I wanted to make. And at the time, I didn't have a pet, because in art school you don't have time to sometimes take care of yourself, let alone a tiny animal. So I thought, I'm going to sew myself a pet, because that makes sense. So I went to the fabric store, and I had no idea the difference between fabrics. No idea. I was like, oh, this is glittery, it's pretty, I'll buy it. No idea that certain fabrics are going to sew differently, the needle's going to take them differently. And I ended up sewing it by hand because I'm like, I'm going to do this with my raw hands. Took forever. My mother said, you're insane, you need to use a sewing machine. So after finally using their sewing machine, I started doing tons more research and making more larger-than-life sewing projects, and decided that my path was to create artwork that taught people about ocean conservation and their environments. It wasn't an easy road by any means. I created a lot of awful artwork, like I told you, and hugely doubted myself at times. However, all of that led to who I am now. Looking back, I wouldn't have changed my path at CIA one bit. From my foundation time and my year in ID, I was able to get a graphic design internship while I was in school. I continued in that path after graduation while working on my sculpture work in my spare time. I've worked as a designer for Jim Brickman, the national recording artist. Worked as a graphic designer at Vitamix, which is the large brand of blenders. I've also done freelance design for the Natural History Museum. And one of my favorite jobs was soft, good prototyping for Hasbro's Nerf department, which was awesome because they gave me free Nerf guns. I mean, who doesn't love that? So today, I work as the creative manager for Mace, the pepper spray company, full-time. And then I've also created a company, Ocean 4, on the side, creating artwork that I said before that teaches people about ocean conservation. So this piece here, my company Ocean 4, is actually a commercial member of the AZA, which is the Association of Zoos and Aquariums. So me, the art freak, goes in and talks to zookeepers and scuba diver people and zoo directors, and I tell them how art can be a huge, wonderful benefit in their institutions to teach people about conservation and species, because we all learn in different ways. So this was my poster presentation at my first conference. It was in Phoenix, it was great. We got to go behind the scenes at the zoo. I got to touch animals. I was in my glory. And people were very, very receptive to this. I thought that I was crazy, that how could I ever make artwork in a world that is not open to it. But now I have an online magazine where every month I work with a zoo or an aquarium, and I do a questionnaire with them about what is it like behind the scenes as an artist, as a designer, to put together those exhibits, because it takes a lot of work, a lot of money, and hard times. I also do small sea creatures, because I feel that we should brainwash children in a good way from a young age to love sea creatures. So hug a shark, not a teddy bear. And I also have now, which was my BFA thesis, but it's gotten such good feedback that I'm still rolling with it, the idea of what if sharks were fuzzy, which is the whole biophilia idea that we are connected to things based on how they aesthetically look. and this was my thesis. Those sharks are now being housed at my parents' house. They were about 8 feet in length, they were weighted, there were about 20 of them. My mom said, God, couldn't you have gone into bead making? She still tells me that. This is my first logo that I had designed when I was in sculpture, and I remember being in my studio space having it pinned on my glass wall, and people saying, is that your space? What are you doing with sharks? And I'm like, I love sharks. Shut your mouth. So I also do art quilts, so I use Illustrator to design a graphic, and then I hand cut out the pieces and sew them on because I'm crazy. And then also this is another art piece from my senior year here. It's a shark armor. So it's crocheted metal and then knitted stainless steel yarn, which is so cool. And then this summer, I actually published my first book. And then this is a book that I worked with a friend who's a writer. I designed and illustrated it, and she wrote the story. So there's my artwork. I continue to push myself as a designer and artist. I truly love my life and what I do, as you can tell, because I'm here today and I'm loving it. Had you told me at 18 that a few years after graduation I'd have my own ocean art company and be the creative manager of a major corporate company, I would have laughed in your face and said you're insane. To say that CIA gave me the education and tools to get me where I am today may be a perfect marketing quote, because I'm sure looking at colleges you hear that all the time, but it is literally 100% true. The education and tools in essence consists of so many things, which speakers before have told you. I mean, they've really done it right on. I should quit my job and come back, like I said. It comes from the amazing real-world working artists that are professors here, the extensive list of majors that you have to select from, and the surrounding area filled with museums and culture and a Barnes & Nobles. Where was that when I was here? Then there are, of course, the other things that are hard to summarize in a single word and are just better experienced. For example, spending hours in your studio with friends working on an art piece, making last-minute trips to the store for that material that you thought you should have bought but you didn't, so you're trying to get there before they close. Trying to figure out how to transport an 8-foot piece of material in a compact car from Home Depot to your studio space. Taking a nap in your studio space at lunchtime because you were there entirely too late the night before. And blowing glass at 1 a.m. when you know your other friends at other colleges are studying for a math exam. You can't beat that. I could go on, but they gave me a time limit, so I'll just say one final thing. Do not let doubt, fears, the nasty negative thinking, and comparing yourself to others stop you from doing your best and from making your dreams of becoming the great next artist and designer a reality. As I told this incoming freshman this year, because I also spoke at convocation, that it takes hard work, determination, and just the right amount of crazy. So I hope you guys enjoy your day here, and I really hope that many of you choose to become a part of the CIA family. Thank you.
Okay, one final housekeeping